What's up, Sixers Nation? Back again with another video here. This one, just like some of these past ones, not on the positive side. We're going to talk today about, is Nick Nurse on the hot seat? We'll talk about a few things. After this, we'll show his post-game presser from last night after that brutal loss to the Nuggets. Talk about his contract with the Sixers, some of his previous accolades, and what he's been doing with the Sixers, how the team has been playing overall, their team stats, outlook on the season, if he should be fired, should be fired midseason at all that kind of stuff, who would take over in all of that, and more. So stay tuned for that. But I think it kind of all starts, and this kind of came up just from last night's presser after that brutal loss to the Nuggets, giving up 140 plus points to them. Basically looked like a pickup game. Sixers could not get back on defense, play any defense at all. They just looked lackluster, and effort was just not there. And we'll play this video here from Nick Nurse, which gives a little bit more insight on just how bad of a game it really was and how the Sixers played.
All boils down to we weren't ready to go from the start, right? I just talked to him about a few simple things that we were trying to do at the start of the game, like 2 minutes in, and we were couple guys in one scheme and a couple guys in another, just lack of being ready to go, right? And it's too bad because I thought we had great prep and great shoot around today, and had some good stuff ready to go, but we didn't get in some stuff. Multiply that into, we missed about 3 or 4 layups at the rim in our own transition. All those turned into some kind of transition, a dunk or a 3 at the other end. So we didn't finish through the hits. And then just, again, lack of execution on offense. When we did execute, we were scoring, we were scoring plenty there in the first half, just not, but the sprinkle in the 2 or 3 lack of execution, 2 or 3 blown layups, 3 or 4 blown layups, 3 or 4 lack of execution, and they capitalized on all of them. And then we found ourselves, down a little bit at the half, and just really we're never really into the game enough to give enough fight defensively. We were back on our heels the whole time, not communicating well enough, not being physical enough to stand them up. We got, as you saw, we got in the open floor, we had guys back, and they'd knock us all the way into the basket and lay it in. Right, we just didn't stand them up enough all night. And we had a bunch of plays that happened right in front of the rim where we were behind them, but they buried us so deep. They were just turning, and they had size advantage at almost every position, just turning, laid it over the top of us. So not very happy with our mental preparation of being ready to go at the start of the game tonight.
You can certainly rewatch that. There's certain different, there's different things you can certainly take from that. Shout out to Jeff Skaversky for posting this video. And you say right at the top, that's something that popped out to me, quotes, not ready to go. This is after, again, a 35-point loss to the Denver Nuggets. Also another quote here, not very happy with their mental preparation. 2 things that really stick out there, and that comes back to whose fault is that? Why are they not ready to go? Why are they not mentally prepared in this game? And I think that comes back to, Nick Nurse. That comes back to the coach. Right? Why are you not ready to go? Why are you not prepared? No one was expecting the Sixers to win this game, right? They were double-digit underdogs in this game. They're on the road against a very good Denver team. No Embiid, no Caleb Martin, KJ, all that kind of stuff. But forget that. You lost by 35, and it did not look at all like they were prepared. And that comes back to the coach. Yes, there are certain things that Nick Nurse could certainly help with. He even admitted himself, they're not ready to go, not mentally prepared. That comes down to him. It wasn't a back-to-back. They had a back-to-back over the weekend, so it's not like they had tired legs and all this kind of stuff too. They had a day off on Monday before the game, but they're not prepared for the game. They may look like a pickup game out there, could not get any defense going, couldn't even – the simple things, right? Like they were getting transition buckets, not even off turnovers, off like missed field goals from the Sixers where they couldn't get back on defense and everything like that. Like someone's got to light a fire under this team. And it's not looking right now like Nick Nurse is going to be that guy.
Yeah, the problem is with Nick Nurse, and going into the season, I was a Nick Nurse fan. Of course, things have changed dramatically throughout the course of this one, but he's an X's and O's guy, and that's kind of where he hangs his hat. Unfortunately, we haven't seen a lot of X's and O's from Nick Nurse. He's not really a motivator. That's not his leadership style. and really how he operates. You can clearly see it just in the press conference. He looks defeated. He looks tired, just like our players do out there consistently. They look tired and defeated. So it emulates right back to the coach there. But overall, I mean, yeah, to lose by 35 to a Denver Nuggets team that is a very good team, but to have basically Joel and then, you can throw in Caleb Martin as a role player that's out. Those two guys as your main injuries. To lose by 35 with Paul George, who's considered a top player in this league. Maybe not top, but he's up there. He's a star. You can consider him. And then same thing with Tyrese Maxey. To lose by 35 is embarrassing. I know you're on the road, but like it was 11-point spread or whatever it was going to the game. It's unacceptable and just not good, man.
Yeah, and that adds on too. Again, they're now at a 7-game losing streak. It's not like they had a bunch of great games before this, and it's just not liar. Like this has been a consistent thing here.
Nothing else.
Stagnant on offense. It seems like at times Nick Nurse is more focused at yelling at the refs than coaching his team. Which certainly, yes, there's as a fan, like I get it. There's certainly times where the Sixers deserve more foul calls, but he seems like he's been treating that as a scapegoat the entire season, and especially in crucial points where there's like less than 2 minutes left in the game. Instead of focusing on the game itself, making sure the player's in the right spot, calling plays, all that kind of stuff, he's been just constantly like yelling at refs and focusing his attention there versus the team. So it's gotten to this point, and just with the record, everything, how they're playing, we'll go into his contract too. With the Sixers, it's the second year with the Sixers here.
Yeah,
but it's not looking great, and it's crazy that it's come to this point, right? This is a guy that he's not a rookie head coach. Got a lot of accolades. We'll talk about those in just a little bit in this video. But he's one of the, he's got a big contract in the Sixers, around $8.5 million. He's the 10th highest paid coach in the league right now. I think when he signed the contract, he was around 5, but there's been some more coaches that have passed him since then. This is an article from Hoops Hype. I think it's funny because they did like closest players in salary. I think it's funny they did George Niang at $8.5 million. Considering ex-NBA player, which would rank number 186 in the NBA. One thing I did find kind of appalling is like he would rank number 4th on the team behind the big 3, behind Joel Embiid, Paul George, and Tyrese Maxey. Like he makes basically around what Caleb Martin does, and he's number 4 on that. Career winning percentage 56.9. So again, this is not like he's not a rookie coach. He's had his experience, which is why I assume you said when he got hired, you liked it, and I did too. I thought
it wasn't a bad
we'd be in a much different spot than we are right now. And I thought Nick Nurse would have a lot bigger of a positive impact on the team for the Sixers. But that's something that they may have to bite if they want to move on from him and get a little bit of a different face to potentially turn around the season. And, this is a guy you want for the future. Is that really someone you want, right? But just how bad they're playing right now. And has he lost the team? Has he lost the locker room? And is this something that, whether we understand this year may not be the year, but like, is this a guy that you can build around for multiple years? Is that a guy you really want to keep at the end of the day? And that's, part of the reason we're doing this video. It's all about that. We'll go into some positive things too on Nick Nurse, because it's not all bad. Some of his previous history. He does have some accolades. He won Coach of the Year in 2020, won the NBA Finals in 2019 with the Raptors, and Kyle Lowry was on the team there. So again, not bringing him in empty-handed. He has stats to back it up. He's been a winner, just like when the Sixers brought in Doc Rivers. He had previously won an NBA Finals and all that. So he's got a pedigree in this league. He had a decent record before too. The Sixers, his career record before the Sixers, 227 wins, 163 losses, 3 playoff appearances too. But his record with the Sixers, 62-62. They are 500. A lot of those losses certainly coming from the season, but they were 47-35 last year. Nothing too crazy. Got into the playoffs as the 6th seed last year. So last 2 seasons, 6th seed, and then this looked like may not even make the playoffs this year. Which, Sixers are not used to winning a lot because they get out in the first, second round. But they've had many years where they got the 1 seed the 1 year. They've gotten top seeds.
Regular season success, man.
But they had a lot of regular season success. Not so much in the playoffs, but they've had regular season success, and that's not something that they've had yet. With Nick Nurse. And I want to spend a few minutes talking about some team stats too. This is the season team stats. I think it shines a very big light on just it's not just their record. It's really everything is just really, really bad. And we can start here at the top. Points per game. They are 27th in the league. There's only 30 teams, so they are in the bottom 4 teams there in terms of points per game, 107.5, which is very low scoring in the modern NBA. they're one thing that they look at this team stats that they are decent at. Their defense has not been that bad. Right? They're given 112.4 points per game, which is 13th in the league. Unfortunately, that amounts to a negative 4.9 average score margin. So their net rating is negative 4.9. So that's what's going to give you your below 500 record, right? All these things on offense, though: fast break points, points in the paint, assists per game. They're second to last in the league in points or assists per game. Again, that we've talked about them needing a playmaker. That's really bad. That goes back to ball movement, all that kind of stuff. You're seeing a lot of ISO ball standing around, which adds to only 22.3 assists per game. They're last in the league in rebounds. We understand they're small, but there's an effort thing that also comes with getting rebounds.
Right.
And they're last in the league for that. Assist per field goals made. We're getting to some more advanced stats here. But these are all, again, every single one of these stats on offense, they are in the bottom third of the league. Defense, not as bad. But all these things here, I mean, great. We have the best free throw attempts per field goal attempts. So that just means that, not a free throws per the field there. That's one of the only things that they're number one in all these two stats here.
That important, yeah.
So again, first quarter points, second quarter points. So they just struggle in every single quarter, 28, 21st, 26, 29. They're at the bottom of the league in terms of point scoring per quarter. They're decent, first quarter. I mean, we can go through and kind of nitpick every single one of these. That's not the point. The overall arching theme of this is we just wanted to show that, yes, the record's bad, but they're
struggling, man.
They're struggling offensively, and that comes down to beat us in games. It's only been 13 games,
right?
But you still have guys in your field that put the ball in the hoop, and it's part of the coach's job to elevate your players. And there's been very, very few players on this team that have elevated. Jared McCain was one of them. He's out for the year.
Yep.
Maybe you could say KJ Martin, but it's very, very marginally that he's elevated his game. Maxi's taken a step back. Paul George playing bad. Yeah, Yabusele is one. That's gotten better. Granted, he came from, he was playing internationally before this. So, was it really Nick Nurse or was it the work he put outside of that? Right. But yes, overall, is a lot of players on the team taking a step back. Kelly Oubre is taking a step back. Someone looks awful. A lot of these veterans too. So there's certainly some things that come back to team structure and all that. But at a certain point, you got to be able to elevate your team.
The stats are not good, man. They're not good, and a lot of it, and we can't just blow past it because it's obvious. We talk about it a lot.
Yeah.
Yes, the coaching, and we'll get into the kind of debate at the end about should the Sixers fire Nick Nurse. We'll see. We'll talk about it in a second in a little bit, but the big part is, yes, they are missing Joel Embiid. And at the end of the day, talent wins. You look at all the times they stars win. And without them, your team is typically not going to perform as well. The issue is Tyrese Maxey and Paul George, who are your 1A, 1B when Joel Embiid is out of the lineup, which we expected him to miss time, have not elevated their game. So you can blame it on coaching. You can blame it on themselves as well, which I'm sure everyone needs to blame there. But that's the big debate is it coaching? Yeah. Is it the players? Is it a mix of both? Which I'm a believer it's kind of both. But there's a lot of issues here. In the Sixers, if you watch the Sixers game, which everyone here that's watching this video definitely has, you know how hard it is. You know how hard it is for us to score when Joel Embiid's not in the lineup. It is. It's brutal. Tyrese Maxey's missing easy layups at the rim, which Nick Nurse said in this press conference. He didn't call him out specifically, but he mentioned it. It's just hard to get buckets, and they don't get back on defense. And that's why you see the stats and then the record.
Yeah, I mean, we can get more to that in just a second. The one thing I wanted to kind of talk about right before that, before we get into that, is, and we have the standings up here. I'm sure you've all seen it. They're sitting at 11 right now in the conference, 15-27 record, 12 games below 500. You mentioned talent wins games, and yes, I agree with that. But there's a lot of teams that are ahead of the Sixers in the standings, even without taking Joel Embiid off the team. He's played 13 games. Let's just say he's played 0 games. He's not even a Sixer anymore, which I know some of you Sixers fans don't even want him on the team. So I guess, clap for that one, which I do not agree with. But let's just pretend Joel Embiid is not even on the team. It's just Maxey, PG, rest of the squad there too. There are plenty of teams ahead of the Sixers that the Sixers are still better than. They're better than, I would say, 5 down, honestly. You could argue they're still more talented than the Pacers, who have Halliburton and Miles Turner. On paper, yes, on paper. Atlanta Hawks, it's just Trae Young, and you got guys, they got Dice Daniels, Jalen Johnson, but a bunch of guys outside of Trae Young. The Sixers have 2 stars, right? And Paul George and Tyrese Maxey. And they got a bunch of other guys around them. Detroit Pistons are even higher. I mean, the Pistons have sucked the last few years. I know Cade's having a good year, but again, it's Cade and a bunch of guys, which actually, of course, Tobias Harris, one of those guys. Orlando Magic. like, okay, so you're going to make excuses for Sixers having injuries, but the Orlando Magic, their 2 top players have missed a lot of the games. Paolo Banchero, their best player, has only played, I believe, 11 games this season, less games than Joel Embiid has played. And then Franz Wagner, who's missed a lot of games recently because he had the same injury as Paolo, I think he's only played about 25 games.
Yeah.
For them, so a little bit more than half.
Jalen
so,
Suggs too has been out. Suggs, another key player.
Suggs missed time. Mo Wagner's out for the season for them.
Yeah.
I mean, the list goes on. Like, why should the Sixers and Nick Nurse get away with making these excuses for injuries when teams like the Magic, you could argue, have had more injuries than the Sixers and are still sitting in playing right now, a game above 500. Miami Heat. I mean, that's one I would maybe say they have more talent, but like they've been dealing with the Butler drama and all that. But they got still Tyler Hero's having a great season and Bam Adebayo. They're sitting at 500. The Bulls, they're 6 games below 500. So not looking too great, but they're still, again, in the play ahead of the Sixers, and they'd have a bunch of guys, right?
Yeah.
They have some decent talent there. You could still argue the Sixers have more talent even without Embiid. So all these teams up here, the Bucks, the Knicks, Celtics, Cavs, they're all very good teams. I would not say without Joel Embiid. With Joel Embiid, yes, I would say they're better than the Knicks and the Bucks. Without Joel Embiid, I'm not saying that, but these 6 teams without Joel Embiid, I would say they have less talent than. So the Sixers should at the very least be in the play-in right now.
Yeah.
And then you look below the Sixers, the 4 teams below them, the Nets, Hornets, Raptors, Wizards. These are teams that are basically tanking at this point. The Nets have traded away a lot of their guys already this season. Finney Smith and Schroeder, they'll be trading more. They don't even have many guys to trade because they're just a bunch of guys outside of like Cam Johnson at this point. Hornets, Melball, and a bunch of guys. And the Raptors, Wizards at the bottom here. These are teams that are like adamantly trying to tank. The only team in between these 6 teams, as I highlight more than 6 teams, these 6 teams and these 4 teams is this team right here by the name Philadelphia 76ers. There's 4 teams below them trying to tank, and there's 6 teams ahead of them that the Sixers have more talent than even without Joel Embiid.
Yeah. And I think one of the main reasons, and you look at some of those, you point out the Magic, they have guys that the coach trusts and they'll play, and they're on the younger side typically. Mm-hmm. We like to play a lot of our older washed veterans, which this team is compiled of, unfortunately. We thought going in, but eventually these guys start to decline, and I think we're seeing in real time, Drummond, that's a name that's been thrown out there. He's been in the league for a long time. He's done a lot of great things in the league. Now he's on the Sixers for his second stint, and he's looked atrocious. He just has. Big name, but once again, not a great player. There's guys that are on the Magic that you probably don't even know that are coming in playing more valuable minutes. Like that guy Bataze with the big beard, big hair. Goga. Not a great or big name player, but he's playing better than Andre Drummond, who name appeal. Drummond is a bigger name, but that's kind of what our team is compiled of. You go back and, hey, if it's 2016, I mean, we said it yesterday during our stream, it looked like we were playing, in an all-star game with Westbrook and Eric Gordon was out there and all the guys that you would think in that era, but we are old and we don't play our young guys. We finally started playing Justin Edwards, so you're seeing some positive momentum there, at least with him. Yeah. Ricky Council's in and out of the lineup. I don't know why. I'd love to give these guys extended minutes, and that goes back to Nick Nurse. He controls the rotation. We'd love to see some of our younger guys play actual valuable minutes. And the problem is, once again, we don't have that many quality young guys, right? It's a mix of we're very top heavy with our 3 stars, and that's what happens when you pay. Is those guys are making 40 and 50 million a year. There's not that much money to go around. So you have your older guys, Drummond's making $5 million a year. That takes up a chunk. And then you're stuck with your minimum, which are older veterans like Eric Gordon, like Reggie Jackson, like Kyle Lowry, which all 3 guys I named are just washed, but that's 3 guys in the rotation, quote unquote, when healthy, debating on, every single game, whatever. But it's tough. We don't have a lot of young guys to go around. The Magic have guys. Right? The Bulls have some young guys that they play. Not that they're really winning that much more than us, but still, they have guys they throw out there and they step up and produce. We don't have that X factor. We just don't. It was Jared McCain. It was, and now he's out for this season. So the Sixers tend to just roll out with the old dudes and see what happens, and they look washed. They look tired, just like the coach, Nick Nurse, in our press conference, in his press conference last night. They look exactly like he looked, exhausted. We're just not motivated.
Yeah. And let's kind of get to the last question here, which is what we've been building up this entire video. We've kind of given some positives, some negatives on Nick Nurse.
Yeah.
The overarching question and of this video is on the hot seat, and that goes with, hey, should the Sixers fire Nick Nurse? I'm take first.
Yeah, I'll take it first. I mean, I've been a big proponent of how coaching quote unquote doesn't matter in the NBA. I've changed over the years, and I still think it's not as impactful as people think. Good coaching, and you can tell that Spoelstra and Popovich in his prime, he was out there coaching the Spurs. Those guys matter. Nick Nurse, I thought going in was a solid coach. This season has certainly changed my mind about his coaching style and just the way he approaches the game. I also think a big piece is talent. Like if Joel Embiid played the entire year, not that he does, or even as many games, I don't want to say last year because he played like 30 plus games in that, but he's been out so much to start this season. A lot of the losses are on him, but at the same time, you can also blame Nick Nurse for what you're seeing this season. I really think it's not a sole, hey, you can point the finger at one specific person, whether it's the coach, Nick Nurse, or whether it's, hey, Embiid's missing or Paul George hasn't elevated. I think it's a mix of both. Is he certainly on the hot seat? Yes, absolutely. Would I fire him if they do not make the play in this season? I'll let him ride out the season. They should not fire him mid-season. I really don't think it achieves anything. You're going to bring in, an interim guy off the bench. It's going to be no better. If anything, it motivates them for a couple weeks, then you forget about it, whatever. But in terms of firing him, if they don't make the plan, I would fire him in the offseason, bring in someone new that's young, a motivator, can teach the young guys something as well. But we need just a different culture here because right now it's not a winning culture. And that's the big thing the coach has to build up. You have to want to play for them. And it seems like Nick Nurse is just kind of going through the motions. Yeah. So in terms of that part, yes, but a big piece is talent. I promise you, if the Big Three played the entire season, the record would look a lot different. We probably wouldn't be making this video. Just the truth with talent.
Yeah, I mean, if they had Joel Embiid, Maxey, Paul George, Giannis, and 4 other top players in the league, yeah, like they should be one of the top teams. Got 2 of the 3, and right now sitting, again, we just went through the standings, sitting at 11, right in between teams tanking and teams with less talent, even without Embiid. So I know you said you're profound. I'm also on the same boat. I do think the Sixers should fire Nick Nurse. I may even take it a step further and say it should happen during the season.
Okay.
Because if you're on the boat of firing him, why wait, until the end of the season? I know you said wait, see if he makes a plan.
Sure.
It seems like they're falling closer to tanking and trying to keep their pick than it is them trying to make a plan, make a playoff run, and all that kind of stuff. Yes, there's really time that my mind can certainly change, but as it stands right now, I would want him fired. And why not start right now? Light a bit of a fire under this team. The amount of times where a coach gets fired and whether it's the interim or the next coach, people, the players rally around that because it seemed like not only is Nick Nurse complacent, but the Sixers seem very complacent right now and relaxed in terms of losing. No one's really stepped up in terms of leadership. That certainly doesn't all fall on Nick Nurse. Kind of how he acts falls onto the team, and that's not something that I think will change the rest of the season. And then even going into the next season, let's say they keep Nick Nurse, they get a top pick, all that kind of stuff. I don't know if I want him coaching my team. So yes, I would take it a step further and say, fire him mid-season. Get an interim in for now, whether it's, and we can show too here, some of the assistant coaches that the Sixers have. They've many, as you've probably seen off the bench. They got a whole entire squad, basically a whole entire starting, more than a starting lineup in terms of assistant coaches. We think that probably it would be whether it's Bobby Jackson or Brian Gates. These are guys that sit very close to Nick Nurse, one of the top assistant coaches for the Sixers would probably take over for the team. I'm not saying it's a long-term answer. That's usually just what happens. It's a quick turnaround. And if it happens, certainly we could do a video too in terms of guys that, candidates that they would probably look to in the offseason. There will certainly be more coaches fired too. If Nick Nurse is fired, they won't be the only ones where someone's let go, and the Sixers would potentially, grab them up there. Coaches, yes, are scapegoated a lot of times. But that's just the nature of the business, and a lot of times what you need to do, right? They're not going to move on from Joel Embiid. They're not going to move on from Maxey. They're probably not moving on from Paul George. And I don't think you can just run back the same team.
You got to.
There'll be marginal changes in the roster, but I don't think you can just run back the same coach. I think he has. I'm not saying completely lost the locker room. But again, he hasn't elevated Max's game. Paul George has taken a step back. These are the core players, right? If they've taken a step forward, like Max is playing better, Paul George, okay, let's keep them because these are guys that would be part of the future of the team. Do I want Nick Nurse to be part of the future of the team? No. Right now, I do not want that. The offense looks very stagnant, a lot of ISO ball. The stats show it. The record shows it. I don't see that changing. Yes, Embiid playing would help a little bit. I don't think they would win, even with Embiid in there. And at that point, okay, let's make a different change here. let's bring in a new coach. So I mean, that's
Yeah,
something
I think the coach can certainly change that, and the plays have not been there at all. Period. Right? We haven't seen a ton of plays by the Sixers and drawn up by Nick Nurse. Even our inbound plays look bad, just across the board. I do think, just to kind of defend Nick Nurse, it is also on the players. Not saying Maxi's and they're not trying out there, I'm not implying that, but guys do have to step up. And yes, part of it is the scheme that we play in. Sometimes guys can step up and hit a damn shot. These are professionals, right? Paul George has to be micromanaged. We're talking about, I don't know how many time All-Star he is, but go up there and win us some games. And that's what good players do.
I mean, there's very few coaches in the league that have been fired because it's strictly 100% on that.
Right.
You know, in terms of what, there's certainly stuff outside the field.
Right. Well, we're talking about
you point
deserve.
flange, all that kind of stuff too. But there are plenty of coaches who are fired with way less expectations and way less talent on their team.
Yeah.
Like, let's say, like a lot of these bottom tier teams where there's whatever, like some of their coaches, they get fired. And it's like, well, my best player is like Kyle Kuzma or Jordan Poole or this guy, who are way worse than Tyrese Maxey and Paul George. Is that fair? No. So that's why I say, like, even more like, okay, like the Sixers have all this talent and they are this bad. Like, I don't know how much I can really say to defend.
That's fair. And just to change that, yeah, I agree in terms of culture and just kind of making a switch, right? For, you know, having just a fresh start. Absolutely. I think there's
bring back Brett Brown.
I think there's Brett Brown was cool. I think there's fans out there also, if we fire the coach, you know, we're instantly, you know, title contenders again. You need talent. Talent wins.
Yep.
So
I'm not saying they're instantly,
right. I'm not saying you
know,
but yeah,
contenders or anything like that. But a change at this time, I believe, is needed. Do I think they'll do it midseason? No. In my opinion, I would, just because why wait till the offseason? I don't think they will do it midseason, but you never know. You know, with the Sixers, what they do here. But we'll certainly give updates as they come out. We're getting close to the trade deadline too, so we'll come out some more. We came out part one the other day on Monday, so listen to that. We talked about some trade targets, buyers, sellers, looking more like sellers right now, since they're currently on a 7-game losing streak. They got Cleveland on Friday at home, another tough game.
was
He's being reevaluated before that, so we could potentially see him be in the next few days. That will also be a big indicator on if they're going to be buyers or sellers too, like if he gets shut down for the season or they tanking, all that kind of stuff. Much more come out videos then. Appreciate everyone that listened in, to this video. As always, hit that like and subscribe button below. We are giving away $25 to a random sub for every 100 subscribers, getting close to 400 there. Eventually, even this week, we'll let you know when we give that away. Hit that. We also have a private chat on our Instagram for subs only. Have over 200 people in that big squad there. That's a lot of fun. Message if you want to be added. And thanks for watching. As always, go Sixers. Got Birds this weekend. Hopefully the Birds can pull it out more of a positive note than what's happening right now with the Sixers. And everyone have a good night. Cheers, baby.